everyone and welcome back, or welcome to my channel. I cannot believe it's already the end of August. It's actually September 1st when I'm filming this right now, which is crazy because that means it's spring in Australia, so happy spring. I still can't believe it. I feel like this year has gone so quickly, absolutely crazy, but I did manage to read 10 books in the month of August, which I think is probably like the most books I've read in a month this year. I did actually do a TBR video for the first time last month where I picked some prompts and then picked some books based off those prompts. However, I managed to only read 2 books from that video. And that whole idea of just picking books from prompts was supposed to help me get through my physical TBR, but I did actually only read 4 books that were on my bookshelf out of the 10 books that I read this month. So someone has to ban me from the library because I just keep going back and it's not great. Anyway, let's get started with the 10 books that I read this month. The first one being Fourth Wing. You already know. If you've seen my reading vlog, you know how much I love this. This was like an instant 5 stars for me. Absolutely amazing. And I absolutely cannot wait to read Iron Flame in November. This was amazing. I annotated it and it was great. I had a great time. If you haven't watched that reading vlog, definitely go watch it because I had a big discussion on how much I loved this book. So I don't really know what else there is to say. It's about dragon riders in this like elite war college. It's great. I don't know what I could say to convince you to read this because you've probably heard about it multiple times over multiple different platforms. But if you haven't already, would recommend. And the next book I read was Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, which is the 3rd book in the Harry Potter series. And I gave this a 3.5 stars. I don't know, because I did like the other 2 previous ones, and I think I gave them like a 5 stars. I'm not too sure. But this just was a bit of a letdown for me. I don't know what more I was expecting. Obviously I've seen the movie. I can't remember too much of like the differences, but I do know that when I was reading this, there was like a whole lot of Quidditch and I was like, I don't really care. I don't really care about the Quidditch. I'm looking forward to reading Goblet of Fire though, because I did enjoy that movie. I think that's like my favorite of the movies, but that's a thick book, so I'm like, not really wanting to get to that super soon. It was alright, 3.5, maybe even a 3.25. I don't know if 3.5 is a bit high. And then the next book I read was Love Theoretically, which I absolutely love. And I actually borrowed a copy from my friend to read, and I want my own. I want my own because I love it so much. I gave this a 5 stars. I knew I was gonna love it. I love Ali Hazelwood. But I did actually have Love on the Brain, which is another Ali Hazelwood book, which I haven't read yet, but it was on my August TBR because the prompt was pick a book from your favorite genre, and I was like, okay, romance, let me pick Ali Hazelwood. So technically I still completed the prompt, but just not the book that I thought it would be. This one, however, absolutely amazing. It's about physicists this time, and I thought it was so interesting. There was lots of like political aspects of physics, which I was like surprised at. And so it talked about the feuds between the theoretical physicists and the experimental physicists. I believe it's experimental, I think. So our main character, Elsie, she is a theoretical physicist and she is a professor, but she's not tenured, so she doesn't have job security. So she's trying to get a good job, right? That's basically like the main plot point of the story, where she's trying to get her job. But because she doesn't have a good job at the moment, she's on this app where she goes on fake dates with people. So like their friends and family think they're dating people, but they're not. It's like fake, right? And one of her clients, I think his name was Greg. I can't remember. I feel like I read this book ages ago because it was the beginning of the month, but I think his name is Greg. He has a brother whose name is Jack. Is it Jack? Is it Jack? Goodness me. Is it Jack? Yes, it is. And Jack and Elsie end up, there's a thing there. Elsie goes to like a family party thing for the grandma, and there's like a connection between her and Greg's brother, and then there's like things that happen and we find out that Jack is a physicist. Somewhat rivals to lovers because he's an experimental physicist and she is obviously not. So I don't know, but this was just, I loved it. I loved it, and I don't think there'll ever be an Ali Hazelwood book that I would not enjoy. So if you haven't read this yet, would definitely recommend. It came out this year, so it's still like somewhat new, but obviously she's really popular. So if you haven't read it yet, what are you doing? Read it. Also looking forward to her new YA release this year. I don't remember when that's coming out, but it's about chess, which seems super fun. And then next year she has a paranormal romance Like, hello? Paranormal romance? Yes, I will read that. And then next I read Spy Families Volume 3 and 4. Enjoyed them both, but I gave Volume 3 a 4 stars and Volume 4 a 5 stars. But because I read them both like so close together, they kind of mesh into one. Like, obviously I remember when I was rating it what it was like, but now, like 3 weeks later, I don't remember fully what was happening. Obviously I know the storyline, but I can't picture which happened in which book. But they got a dog. Love it. And I am obviously excited to finish the rest of this series. And then next, The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, which was a book from my TBR video. I loved this. I gave it a 5 stars, and I don't know why it took me this long to read it. I don't know. I've had this on my shelf for like, what, 2-3 years, which is absolutely crazy to me. Do not know why I took so long to read it, but I loved the way this book was formatted as well. I'd only actually read Daisy Jones and the Six before reading this book, so I didn't really know what else to expect, but this is somewhat similar in the fact that it was like someone was interviewing celebrities. So we have Evelyn Hugo, who was a famous actor, and we also have Monique. I've never said that name before. Monique. Anywho, so our main character, she is a journalist, and Evelyn Hugo only wanted her to write a story about her, and then she ends up writing a whole book about her. So this is basically the book, in a way. Like, the way that it's told, it's like Monique, she is getting the story for her book, but we're also reading it at the same time, so it's like we're reading the book that she writes. And it's split up into sections of The Seven Husbands, so we've got like different sections based on each husband, and I love that. And then we also have like news articles in there. Loved it. And I heard this is actually going to be adapted into like a movie or a TV show. I can't remember which, but I'm so excited. I will definitely be watching. Cannot wait. The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, 5 stars, would recommend. And then the next 3 books that I read were all in my Heartstopper reading vlog, so if you haven't seen that, go check it out. But the first one was The Outsider by Albert Camus. Did not enjoy. It was quick to read, but not very enjoyable. I gave it a 2 stars, and I was a little disappointed with that because obviously with classics you kind of expect them to be something if they're getting that status level, and I don't know, I just felt like it was really uninteresting and boring, and I just didn't really care about it. So yeah, 2 stars. And then next is We Are Okay by Nina LaCour, which I gave a 3 stars. I liked it, but I didn't love it. So there you go. And then next was Book Lovers by Emily Henry, which I gave a 4.75 stars. I really enjoyed this. Like, so good. Love the small town setting, but it was also a New York setting, which love both. I'm not super duper into small town though, and I want to like try and ease into the small town, which I thought this was good for me because I do like New York, and it had New York and a small town. So I was like, yes, I appreciate that. Obviously it's surrounding people in the publishing industry, which I find very interesting. Loved to read about it, loved the characters, and Emily Henry always does amazing characters. If you have not read an Emily Henry book yet, definitely do so. She just does amazing characters with great character development. I don't know what she puts in her writing, but I devour it every single time. Absolutely loved it. Then the last book that I read this month was My Fault, which I ended up giving a 3 stars. This was originally in Spanish, so obviously I did read the English translation. There were a few mistakes in it. I don't know if those mistakes were there in Spanish or if it was just because it was the English version, which is not the original. Do not know. This book was quite enjoyable. I liked it. The story was interesting, and I don't know a lot about like car racing, but it was interesting to read about. And I did read this because I did want to watch the movie, which I have watched since. And there are quite a few differences between the book and the movie that I found. Like, I was seeing so many edits on TikTok before even like reading the book or watching the movie of the ending of the movie with the cars and how they're spinning around and everything, and I was like, ooh, that looks fun, let me read about that. It wasn't in the book. That was completely different. So the ending was different. Also, another difference with the book and the movie was in the book, I don't know though if this is just because I read the English version, but she was from Canada and she moved to LA. But obviously in the movie, since it's Spanish, they were in Spain, but I don't know where she was moving from. I'm not sure. Like in the book, if you've read the Spanish version, is she like in Spain or does she move to America? I have no clue. There were some things that I was just like confused about, like the main character Noah, she obviously doesn't like violence because of things that have happened in her past, but then she goes and punches Nick in the face. I was like, okay, but why? And then later, if he's punching people, she like freaks out and goes like, what are you doing? Violence. And I'm like, well yeah, I get that because of your circumstances, but then why did you feel the need to go punch someone and resort to violence when that's something that you do not like? I don't understand that, but okay. I would have punched him too in that situation. Absolutely terrible. And also I have heard they've started filming, or they finished filming, the second and third movies. It is a trilogy, the books, so there is more. Don't know what more they could do because I feel like with the ending it kind of wrapped up. Like what happens next? Who knows? I don't know. Anyway, so those are the books that I've read this month. I would love to know if you've read any of these and what your thoughts were on them, or if you would like to tell me what you read in the month of August, would love to know. So tell me in the comments. But if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe down below because I post new videos every single Saturday, so you do not want to miss it. And I will see you next week with a new video. Goodbye.